Ladies and gentlemen, before we get into today's conversation, I want to share a little bit about 2Before, today's presenting sponsor of the podcast. I've worked with 2Before for over 2 years now, and it's really cool to work with partners long-term, and 2Before has been there for me for a long time, and they make an incredible product that I'm always happy to talk to you guys about. Breaking down 2Before for you, if you're unfamiliar, 2Before is made up of blackcurrant powder, and if you're not familiar with blackcurrants, they are antioxidant berries grown in New Zealand, and studies have shown that consuming them regularly improves endurance by increasing blood flow and removing lactic acid, and they also can manage inflammation and kickstart muscle recovery, meaning you can hit your next training session just as strong as you did the previous day. Today, I have a special code for you, the Running Effect 30, which will give you 30% off of your purchase. And I'm really excited to hear the testimonials of you guys trying it out because I firmly believe this stuff works and is a great asset to your training. Without further ado, enjoy my conversation of the podcast today.
Set high goals for yourself, be patient and give it years of time. But if there's something that you're excited about and you care about deeply, pursue it and see how far you can go in it. And you might surprise yourself. You'll probably surprise yourself. It's amazing how over time you can achieve things that you never thought were possible. And
that was Caleb Olson today on the Running Effect podcast. And if you guys have followed Ultramarathon recently, you've probably heard his name because he just won the 2025 edition of the Western States 100 miler, where he ran 14 hours, 11 minutes, and 25 seconds, the second fastest time ever on that iconic course in that iconic race. He is running for the Nike ACG team, working full-time as a software developer and a new dad, husband, an absolute stud. He used to run on the track, then he transitioned to ultramarathons. He ran his first one in 2018. And as you guys can tell by him winning one of the most iconic and prestigious races in the space of ultramarathoning, this guy's a stud and he's not going anywhere. He is here for domination in the years to come. Wanted to sit down with him, break down his story, his mindset, his training, his thoughts, and take it from there. This guy's going to come on the podcast, I'm sure, many more times in the future after he wins and dominates races, because that is the path and trajectory he is on. If you guys enjoy this one, share with a friend, a family member, a teammate, someone who you think would find value and benefit from it. Give us a 5-star review. It takes 3 seconds to do. And hit the follow or subscribe button so you never miss another episode. With all those notes aside, enjoy this conversation with the champion himself, Caleb Olson. The man of the hour, Mr. Western States, Mr. Ultramarathoner, Mr. Champion himself, Caleb Olson. Welcome to the Running Effect podcast. How are you doing this afternoon?
thanks a lot, Dominic. I am doing well. How are you?
I'm excellent. I do want to talk about the race, but I'm sure you're burnt out as hell from it, doing interviews, media, podcasts, and I think something that I always appreciate is I see a figure win something, and I know that there are years behind it. So I promise you we won't focus on the race too much, but something I do really want to get insight into is you're standing on the start line. You've trained your butt off. I'm sure you've talked to your wife, your coach, your friends about mindset, strategy, the possibility of winning. You have your preparations in place. You have your fueling strategy in place. You've probably thought through the race a million times in your head. You're standing there at the start line with your competitors. What's going through your brain? Is it pressure? Is it fear? Is it nerves? Is it joy, excitement? What are you feeling in that moment? Take me back.
I think in that moment, it was probably a combination of nerves and excitement. It's, for me at least, I'm not standing on the start line thinking about how it's going to finish. I'm more just almost itching to get into it and be in the middle of it already. And I don't like that feeling of anticipation and the waiting. So I think on the start, I'm let's just shoot the gun and let's get going already. It's almost impatience and I guess also excitement to just be in it. I get really nervous before races, and I had been feeling nauseous that morning because of nerves, I'm assuming. So I think it was, mostly just wanting to be in it already.
I've done one ultra marathon in my life, a 50K trail ultra, and I didn't really train for it. So maybe this mindset just came from that. But I remember 3 miles in kind of hurting and just being that's okay. I'm stronger than the pain. I think a lot of people will feel feelings and then they'll let the feelings dictate the outcome or how they feel in that moment. They'll let it override them. Whereas something that I feel helped me overcome it was I was like, okay, my knees hurt, I'm tired, but my knees can hurt and I can still run and I can still perform. For you, how early on into an ultra marathon like a Western States or something else do you feel the pain, and how do you push past it? Like, what's your strategy?
I think there's different levels of pain, and like from the very start, we're running up. Like Western States immediately starts with a pretty good climb. The first 40 minutes you're doing that climb, and it's not like actual pain, but it's like your body's starting to work, and you realize that you need to be able to sustain that effort for the next 14 hours, the next 100 miles. So I think there's like very quickly some sort of recognition of like um, less pain and more like managing and keeping things sustainable, and like trying to understand what effort you can maintain for a very long time. But inevitably you eventually start hitting this point where like warning signs start going off. I think the first little warning sign I had was like around mile 38. I ate a ton of stuff going into an aid station, just trying to go into my aid station totally empty so that I could get a full refill. And I think I just ate too much too quickly, and I started throwing up after that. And it was fine. It was just like a quick, like, I don't know, cleanse almost. And then I was good to go after and could keep running just fine. But that was sort of a warning of like, okay, I need to pay more attention to how I'm pacing, what I'm taking in. But it wasn't until probably like mile 70 or so where it was starting to hit more of like a physical wall of like, I actually don't know if I'm going to be able to keep this pace up. I'm probably going to have to slow down at some point. I'm getting really dehydrated. I'd say that was the moment where I, yeah, it was more like a concern of I'm not going to be able to keep up this pace that I've been doing, and how can I not completely fall apart and keep enough of a gap between me and everybody else that I can still win.
How do you overcome those doubts in the moment? 30 miles to go is a long way. I thought
Yeah,
that thought, and then I was like, maybe not for you. You're psychotic and you win Western States, so maybe not. But to
it's
me, it's a
definitely a long way.
long way to go. Yeah.
Yeah.
How do you break through those thoughts?
Um, I mean, you kind of don't like. Sometimes you can, overcome it, like push it down and just run through it. If it's like maybe a physical thing, like you're a blister on your toes bugging you or something like that. But this wasn't that. Like there were some physical things that hurt, but it was more of like, okay, I have a deep dehydration problem that's going to be a real issue later and could make me like actually need to fully stop. So it's more just like managing, like I'm going to be aware of this and take in all the fluids that I can handle, and hopefully that's enough to get me to the finish line. um, I, I think I'm like a pretty like level-headed guy, so I don't tend to like freak out too much when things like that pop up. I think of it more as just like, this is an issue, let's do some problem solving. I need to be drinking more water. Even drinking as much as I can drink, I'm still sweating too much to replace it all. So I'm continuing to get more dehydrated. I need to slow down a little bit so that I can replenish more of what I'm losing, is basically like the thought process. And that was enough to be manageable, but I definitely slowed down a lot towards the end of the race because of that.
What would you say is the biggest thing you've grown in over the past few years that really showed during that race and allowed you to kind of unlock the final percentages that you needed to win?
Um, I think maybe the single biggest thing would be confidence. I think I used to go into races with the mindset of like, it would be really cool to get top 10 at this race. And as you go through the years and start getting better results, and I also think like you get fitter as the years go on, the miles build on themselves, you start getting better results, you start expecting more out of yourself. And maybe one year you think top 10 would be cool, the next year you think a podium would be cool, and the next year you think a win would be cool. So it's kind of just like realizing what you can do and that you're capable of more than you've been shooting for makes you want to set higher and higher goals. And they always feel kind of equally out of reach, but then you actually hit some of them and you realize, if I really make a crazy goal and throw it out there, I've surprised myself many times before, maybe I can actually do it. So that's what I did for Western. Is I went into it with the goal of, I want to break 14 hours. That's never been done before. I'm going to make my plan based around that and see how close I can get. And yeah, it came up a little short, but I think it took a lot of confidence and like a very different mindset than I've had in some previous years to go for that. And it was enough for the win.
Caleb, here to break some news. I don't know if you were aware of this, but June 28th, Batman, no one saw Batman. And there was a man, on the West Coast who looked like Batman. He was wearing some funky outfit, and people are thinking it's the same dude. What's the story? I'm sure you've gotten asked this, but what's the story behind your outfit, and were you surprised at kind of the recognition it got you? I had multiple people text me, and I don't follow ultras too much, so it caught me by surprise.
Yeah, there's definitely a story behind it. I first saw that outfit a year ago at Western States last year. It was kind of just like this concept outfit of like, we're working on this new material. We made like a quick little shirt out of it, try it on. And as soon as I put it on, I was like, whoa, there's something here. Like, this is crazy, just how cool it can keep you. It's like cooler than wearing a shirt. And it looks funny, but I've never really been much of like a fashion or a looks guy. It's more just about performance. And I got some opportunities to try that shirt on in like different lab settings on Nike campus, in this like heat chamber treadmill room with like a fan going at the same speed, that basically imitating Western States conditions. And tried a bunch of different variations of that shirt, different like sleeve lengths versus wearing my normal short sleeve shirt that I would wear for most races versus shirtless. And basically the numbers and the feelings backed up that that shirt was the way to go for me. And so, yeah, I guess it was an easy call for me to try it out and wear it for the race, but I was definitely surprised by the public reaction to it. I figured it would get some attention because it's like a pretty out there outfit, but I think a big part of why I feel like my Western States this year got a lot of attention, I think, is because of that shirt, and because it kind of like went viral, and I've had so many people messaging me about it, but it was a pretty unique outfit.
For you, does it really, like, I don't know, I'm trying to think of what to compare it to. If you're unshirtless, like, how much of an effect do you actually think it has? Does Nike plan on selling it? And I mean, I know you kind of shared some behind the scenes of like the impact you think it had, but can you speak more to like try to put into words? Is there a measurable? It keeps you X amount of degrees cooler. Like, what are the feelings of it?
Yeah, I did a lot of running with a bunch of sensors on with it. So like I've got like my surface temperature versus my core temperature with and without it. I don't remember all the exact numbers and what percent cooler it kept me, but I do know that it feels a lot cooler. It almost feels like uh, it needs to be wet and there needs to be air flowing through it for it to really work at its like full potential. And when you do those two things, it does kind of feel like uh, I mean, it's water evaporating off of your skin. That's the same way that your body cools yourself with sweat. It's like a refrigerator almost. Like it's it's not going to solve all the problems of how to run in heat, but it definitely made a significant difference.
Gosh, so many questions on my head. I'm losing track of them. I was going to ask you something more on the shirt, but we can move on from the shirt.
Okay.
Another subject I wanted to talk to you about. We see this concept in track and field that I think a lot of people talk about, which is dad strength. I feel like people like Drew Hunter have kind of coined the term, and it's basically when you have a kid, you get faster. Correlation between having a kid in May and winning Western States.
Um, I mean, I don't think that it helped me run any faster. It definitely changed some of the way that I have to train. Maybe it kept me from like overtraining too much because my time got more limited. So I felt like I went to the start line fresh and healthy and excited to race. I also think it gave me something to look forward to during the race of like, I know that my new baby's going to be waiting at the finish line. I'm excited to see him. I don't know that other than maybe that mental aspect, there's too much of a dad strength boost, but there definitely also wasn't a huge downside to it. I think we were able to manage having a baby and training and not have it hurt anything.
For you, do you think it gives you a mental boost in terms of, well, two thoughts for you, and I'd love to hear your reaction on them. One, like the deeper source of purpose and meaning of like, yeah, my son's at the finish line. Like there's more of a reason to run at this point, because I'm sure it was similar when you got married, like more people in your life who you deeply care about. One, that, and two, maybe on the converse, like it doesn't really matter. He will have no clue whether I DNF'd or won.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter. Like, how did having a baby kind of reframe how not serious running is in some ways?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's something that I've always been really aware of is like, this is a fun thing first. And like, I do it because I love being outside and running, and it's fun to like push yourself. But racing is like inherently kind of contrived and stupid. And like, we're timing ourselves on these like arbitrary from one point to another. Um, so like, I think that's always a good perspective to have. And it makes you get like stay more relaxed about things, not take it too seriously. But I also think that like whatever you're doing, if you're really into something and you're trying to get the most out of yourself at something, that's a cool example that I want to set for my kid. And like, yeah, it wouldn't have mattered if I had DNF'd, he would have never known. But it is cool to someday be able to tell him this story and show him these pictures of me holding him at the finish line and tell him like I cared a lot about that and I gave everything I had to win that race, and it meant a lot to me, and I liked that he was there. And I'm hoping that that can be, even if he doesn't remember it, it can be like a source of motivation or inspiration for him throughout his life to chase whatever passion he has and go all in on something.
Do you feel like, alongside being a professional runner, being married, having a kid, being a software developer, do you feel like that has helped you in your pursuit of not being like too single focused? My life depends on how well this workout goes today.
Yeah, I do. Like I've never, other than the mental aspect of just like really enjoying running and being outside, I've never needed running. Like I don't need to win a race to be okay financially or like to have my ego propped up or something like that. Um, it's it's really nice and it's fun and I love it, but it is good to not need it and to know that like I had a good stable job before I ever got into running. I had a wife before I ever got into running. um, my life doesn't fall apart without it, and I could get injured and I know things are going to be okay. I think that when all people have is running, it can be really easy to like hyperfixate on it and either do too much, or when like it's inevitable that something eventually goes wrong. And when that happens, I think it can feel like everything's crashing down if that's all you have.
What would you say is the biggest part of your journey that goes unseen or unrecognized? Because I think a lot of people can glamorize, oh, Caleb gets fancy vests from Nike. He gets free shoes from Nike. He gets these other sponsorships. He gets to run Western States. He gets the glory and accolades of winning it. But I
Yeah.
think people probably don't understand 99% of the work that went into it, the doubts behind it, the years on the track that led into it. What do you feel like is the biggest part that you think goes unnoticed by most?
Um, my first thought to that question was like the training and all the hours that go into it, but people probably assume that there's a lot of training that goes into it, and I don't need to like spell out exactly what all that looks like. Maybe the biggest thing is I think when people see results like winning Western States and running for Nike and like these cool things that I've been able to do, they probably assumed that I am like really fast and have this like big running background and have always like dreamed of doing that. But it's kind of something that like I feel like I'm a pretty normal guy with like not that much of an interesting story to tell, because I like didn't run in college. I wasn't some ex All-American or like a fast road marathoner before I switched over. And like it was never really my goal to like run professionally or win these big races. It's all just been sort of this gradual, like we talked about before, like change of confidence and building confidence in myself and setting these new goals. But the original intention really was like, I've got a background in mountaineering. I grew up in Seattle. I was just really into like spending time outside in the mountains. And then it sort of just naturally happened that like I wanted to see if I could cover more ground faster. And I think what I hope people realize is like you can be sort of just a normal person and not do anything special on the track or road or have any other like accomplishments to your name, And over the years, if you like something and you work hard at it, you can get really good at it and do these things that you never thought were possible.
What would you say to someone who's in kind of that middle ground of like, yeah, they ran collegiately, or they're running collegiately, or they're a decent high school runner, but they're not breaking 4 minutes in the mile. They're not necessarily running D1 or becoming an
Yeah.
All-American, but they still have that little spark and that dream to do something more. What would you say to them in this kind of path?
I'd say they're at a huge advantage over me already. Like that kind of speed definitely doesn't hurt. I don't think you have to have it, but if you've got that and you enjoy being outside and running around on trails, like I think there's a lot of people out there probably on the edge of being able to do something great on the track or roads, but like not quite there. Maybe they're just missing a OTQ, or they're not quite getting that scholarship to that college that they want, that sort of thing. I would say give trails a try because it's kind of the Wild West still, and like there's a lot of room for fast people to come in and do really well. And if your dream is to get sponsored and win big races, it's still like the sport is still relatively young. There's a lot of opportunity, and I think it's in a lot of ways probably easier to like make it and make a living in trail running than it is in track or road.
Do you think it's possible? And I just had this thought occur to me. I live in Columbus and we have some trails, but like a kid listening in Columbus, do you have to have trails by you to be excellent at the sport?
I think it helps a lot. I want to say
Yeah.
like, no, you can just go run for a long time on a treadmill or like run flat roads. And it depends on what you like. Like I do think there are races out there that cater to people who are good at that and who enjoy doing that. There are ultra marathons that are entirely on roads, or there are basically flat gravel races that are technically trail races. If you want to do something more like Western States or like UTMB, some of the big trail races, I do think you need to be, if you're not on actual trails, I think you're gonna get so burnt out of the training on an uphill treadmill that it's not even gonna be fun. And I also think a lot of people struggle with like the technicality of some trails. There's a big difference between running on a smooth surface and some of the trails that we find in most of these races.
You mentioned growing up in Seattle. I've gone the past 3 years, past 3 summers. Brooks is headquarters up there, and they always
Yeah,
put on a high school national meet, and they wine and dine the kids, and I've been a part of that. And I
that's
can
cool.
confidently say after the past 3 years, Seattle does not receive enough love. I've never been to a place that has like Lake Washington. The water is just gorgeous, so blue. You have the mountains. You just have like, and the ocean's not that far. You have so many things in like one place. And I feel
Yeah.
like the people who talk about their cities super positively, it's like they either have mountains or water, or and the weather too isn't that horrendous.
Did
It
you
can
go
go
in the
either way.
summer?
Yeah, which I know I'm
Yeah.
biased, but
No, it's
so
so nice in the summer. Go
what's your
any other
take?
time of year and then it's a little rough.
Okay, well, what's your take on Seattle? Am
I
I
love
in over my
Seattle.
heels?
I love Seattle. I miss it all the time. I'm based in Utah now, and I like it here. The main difference is, well, there's a bunch of differences, but I mean, I think as a trail runner, Utah's a better place to be. I'm at high altitude. I've got trails with big 11,000-foot mountains right out my door. Um, Seattle has epic mountains, and I love a lot of Seattle, but even just driving like 45 minutes to some of the places where I used to run in Seattle, it's a big difference to add an hour and a half to your run basically with the commute time versus being able to do things right from your door. And it just makes it so accessible to live here. But I definitely miss the green. I miss the access to water. I miss the seafood. There's a ton that I miss about Seattle. I try and get back most years and do some sort of fun project in the mountains out there.
I imagine 11,000 foot peaks, all that sort of stuff. You're coming across nature, crazy stories. Any bears, any snakes?
Uh, the Wasatch is surprisingly tame for like, yeah, it's the wilderness, but like you got cell service in most places out here. It's super rare to see a bear. What there are a decent number of are moose, and I have had like some close moose encounters and like being charged by moose while skiing. That's been by far the scariest wildlife encounter I've had, but it's pretty rare. I've had that. I think twice I've had scary encounters with moose, but that's about it.
Do you know who Alex Honnold is? Do you ever watch Free Solo?
Oh yeah,
I saw this Instagram reel and I thought it was fascinating, and I tend to agree with it as much as I don't want to because it's scary. Like
yeah,
he was like, enough humans these days don't have enough natural encounters like with fear, that we are so deprogrammed to like what actual fear is. And I'm gonna forget basically most of the reel, but he's like, he was basically like, go run in the mountains, go climb something, go, like, that part of our brains is like rarely tapped into. And I think there's a lot of truth there. And I think as humans, we are pretty obviously like risk averse. We don't want to put ourselves in uncomfortable situations, but I'm sure you yourself could speak to some of those situations. Like, it is healthy from time to time to have like a flight or fight response. Our ancestors were used to it probably like daily. I don't know if you have any thoughts on that.
My thought is, I think even like trail running, you can push your body in ways that are hard and like maybe dangerous because you could get really dehydrated or something. But it's not like a fight or flight fear response. It's not a sudden adrenaline rush. I do think that there's value in putting yourself in situations where you like feel alive and where it really pushes your limits. And I think it's hard to find that in actual running, but I do spend enough time in the mountains that you end up like, I love scrambling around. I love mountaineering, even though I don't do it nearly as much anymore. And putting yourself in situations where you're full on scrambling up some new route that you're trying to find the best path on. You're not sure if you're going to get cliffed out or not. Maybe you go up somewhere and there's no path up and you have to backtrack and find something else. I think those can be scary and those can get your heart pumping, but they also, if you're confident in your abilities and you don't do anything too dangerous, I think there's value in doing that. And I think a lot of people focus so much on like just training and running and getting fit and less on those sort of experiences that sometimes you can forget like why you're doing this in the first place and the true like love of the outdoors and that feeling that you get when you're in those kind of situations. And that's really the core thing that even brought me to this world of ultra running in the first place. So I think there's a ton of value in going back and feeling those feelings.
I also want to clarify, I'm not saying to the listener, go out and seek the nearest bear and fight him.
Yeah.
More so just like, as kids, what do? We climbed trees and we scraped our knees, and we don't do that as adults. And I'm not saying everyone go climb the nearest tree, but just like doing things to, I mean, for an adult, I feel like a normal thing a lot of kids do is like they'll like jump off moderately high bridges into the water, or go climb a mountain that they're a little scared because of how slanted it is, things like that. I think it's just crazy to me, man. And I don't want to sound way older than I am or like a parent, but like phones and technology and our routines have just ruined our ability to like be curious about the world and about nature. And that's why I love the sport of ultramarathoning, is like it's way more natural and human than like running around a track. And I like track more than ultramarathons. That's kind of how I grew up. But in terms of like, as I grow older and as I think about the world and I think about like our ancestors, it's like 2000 years ago, that would have been you at Western States just chasing your family's meal that night. And that's sick. So cool. So
yeah, I love that. I mean, I think that's like, for me, it's a more inspiring and motivating way to do things than like, I cannot imagine track would not work for me. One, I'm not fast enough, but two, I just can't imagine like running in circles around a track and having that be what I do and what excites me. And maybe if I was really good at it, it would, but I think I feel very lucky to get as much enjoyment and be as good as I am at running around outside in the mountains and cool places. It unlocks like, it makes it so fun to go travel and explore the world because all these best races are in the coolest parts of the world, where you go see these things that most people never see because most people never ventured 40 60 miles deep in the wilderness, and it just allows you to see these things in ways that most people would never get the chance to.
how much of ultramarathoning do you think is mental versus physical? Because I think with something like track, if you're doing a track workout with someone better than you, there are parts of it that are mental, and there are parts, if you're mentally strong, you could go a little bit further, but it really is a physical limitation. What I found when I've did that 50K ultra off of little training, or I've done marathons off of little training, the ability to just keep going is so mental. I don't really think it's physical, and I think the mental can override the physical. So I've always thought that ultra marathons are maybe a little more mental. What's your take on that?
I definitely agree. I think there's like, you can't do it without fitness. You need to be able to run or continue moving the whole time, and training helps a lot. But yeah, I think a huge portion of it is mental, both in terms of like convincing yourself to keep going, but also kind of like what we talked about earlier, like the ability to keep calm and problem solve when things come up. If you run for like long enough, something's going to start hurting or go wrong, and you need to be able to deal with it in the moment. And no amount of like interval workouts on a track before is going to prepare you for the stomach cramps and like all these things that pop up when you're deep in an ultra. So yeah, I think also being able to from a competitive perspective, being able to convince yourself that it matters and like not give up is, I think, a huge mental part of it. You could be leading a race and you can be deep in it and something can go wrong. And it's amazing how quick your body realizes that something is like pretty wrong with yourself and tells your brain like, this does not matter anymore. We need to go to a hospital or like take care of your body, which is good. Like that, humans need that to survive. But I do think that we can push ourselves harder than we realize. And I think a lot of ultra running is being able to turn off those parts of your brain that are throwing on warning signals and know which ones you can ignore and which ones you need to pay attention to. But yeah, push through things that seem like you need to stop.
How do you know which ones you can push through versus which ones you shouldn't? Because I think that's a fine line. And I think what makes you so great is that you probably push past most of the ones that someone like myself would.
That might be true. And some of it might be stupid and dangerous, and maybe one of these days I'll end up paying for it. But I think a lot of it is experience. Like I did my first ultra in 2018, and that went terribly, and a lot of warning signs were ignored, and I ended up in rough shape. But since then, over the years, I've done at least a few ultras each year, and from each one, I've learned a lot. I also have like a friend group out here, I guess, who have been like mentors to me and have shared their experiences. And I've had the opportunity to go out and crew and pace a lot of them in these big ultras where I've seen what they've had to manage and deal with, and seeing basically, I guess, how they're feeling and what they're dealing with, and then whether or not they can keep going kind of lets me know, like, I've seen this issue before. I know that this is not something that should end my day. I can either work this out or just push through it. So I think a lot of it is experience.
Obviously, when you win a race like this, there's going to be media. I know you're burnt out. We talked about this before. There's more pressure and spotlight than ever before. Do you like it, and how do you plan to move forward? Because I think going to Western States, like, you were legit, but you win Western States. I kind of compare it to like golf, where you win the Masters, or tennis, where you win Wimbledon, and it's like, doesn't matter who you were before. Next year, everyone's going to be talking about you. Next race you run, everyone's going to be talking about you. It'll kind of forever be a part of your legacy. Do you like that? Do you not? If so, how do you work through it?
Yeah, it's funny because it's a big deal in this tiny niche world of ultra running. So it's like very different than Wimbledon or other big events like that in some ways. But in within the little sphere that I mostly operate in, it is a huge deal. And so relative to what I'm used to, it feels like, yeah, it's been like kind of overwhelming. Like social media is a weird world where you can go from having a few followers to like tens of thousands of followers overnight. And you can get all these messages, and I mean that's how we ended up chatting. Like you get all these Instagram messages. Uh, there's sponsorship stuff to deal with. There's a lot to think about, and it feels like a big change very quickly. I think that pressure and like my own expectations and what I think of external expectations of me has always been something that I've like sort of struggled with, and like tried to do a very good job of keeping as low as possible for myself. And so that's something that I'm still kind of figuring out. Like, how am I going to do that going forward now that I'm more known and like more as I whether it's reality or not, more as expected of me is how I feel. And so I don't know that I have all the answers to that yet, but I do think I'm pretty good at managing stress usually. And this has been a good test of that and has pushed me a little bit. But I also think it's fun to be getting attention. Like it feels good to get recognized for something that I worked hard for. It's come with a lot of cool opportunities, and I've met some cool people through it. So there are a lot of upsides to it.
What's next for you? It's the worst question, I'm sure, to sit in that seat. So maybe a better way to frame it is, what are you most excited about moving forward? And have you had the time to reflect, breathe after this accomplishment?
Yeah, I think now that most of the pain has worn off from the actual day, like the physical pain and just like the mental fog, I've had some time to reflect. I've, I think I've appreciated what happened and like celebrated it. And the next big thing that I'm like officially planning on doing is we every 2 years in trail running, there's the Trail and Mountain Running World Championships. I did the last one in 2023 out in Austria and had a very rough day out there. But I got picked again for Team USA this year for the like 50-mile distance, and that's at the end of September in Spain. And I'm looking for redemption. So that's the next one that I'm excited about. I'm very excited for training for that too because it's much more like it's a tough, really mountainous course on hard terrain, and that's going to be really fun to train for compared to a lot of the like hot rolling hills that I've had to do for Western States training. So I'm pretty excited about that.
New fans who found you through this podcast, found you through you winning Western States. What's the message for the Caleb Olson fan club?
I guess set high goals for yourself. Don't be patient and like give it years of time. But if there's something that you're excited about and you care about deeply, pursue it and see how far you can go in it. And you might surprise yourself. You'll probably surprise yourself. It's amazing how over time you can achieve things that you never thought were possible. And like, even if what you're doing in the moment seems pretty mundane and like nothing special, you can look back at it a year later and where you're at now and see huge progress. And I think that's a pretty cool thing.
Caleb, final question for you. The question I ask every guest on every single podcast. I can promise you've never been asked this question before. If you had Gordon Ramsay coming over to your house for dinner, what would you choose to make for him?
Oh, I'm cooking for him. My specialty right now, or maybe the thing I've been having the most fun doing recently has been steak because for Father's Day, I got a little sous vide thing. So I can like do the, seasoning water bath sort of thing with the steak first and then sear it. I just feel like I disappoint him with my steak, but that is what I've been having the most fun cooking recently. So I guess I'd give that a try. And at the very least, even if he was disappointed, he could give me some pointers.
I love it. Did you know he's run like 12 marathons? He's actually a runner.
Has he really? I had no
Yeah.
idea.
Part of
Well,
the
then
reason
maybe we
I
got to
asked
actually
the
make this
question.
happen.
I know, seriously. I mean, I would love, he's one of my dream guests because it's people like that I would love to talk to and just talk about their running. Because I think there are so many figures out there who are runners, but people really don't know it. And they're probably sick of the normal interview questions. So Gordon's team, if you're listening, one of these days he's going to come on. And I've been thinking back to why I started asking that question. I think 5 years ago when I started the podcast, I was just like, most podcasts I listen to have their kind of rapid fires. And I think I heard someone say something about cooking dinner for someone, and I was like, who's a figure that I think is hilarious and most people know? What I'm fearful of, Caleb, is like one episode when I ask someone and they have no clue who he is, and I've yet to find someone who doesn't. So fingers crossed until that day. But really appreciate you coming on the podcast today. I know you've done a ton of media recently, and look forward to having you back on. And keep crushing it, man. Your story's super inspiring, and congrats on the win. It's big, and I know it's just the start for you. So keep crushing it, man.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks for having me.